Do you guys want to see how I redo this buffet? We're going to strip the top. We're going to change the colors. We're going to take this transfer off. We're going to change the hardware. If you want to see how I do that, keep watching. Hey everybody, my name is Crys'Dawna. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am a furniture artist. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button right here and then hit the bell and you'll get all the latest videos. If you are returning, welcome back. If you can't tell, I am in my garage this week. If you can hear all the little birds chirping, it's kind of peaceful, right? I'm going to be stripping this piece down. And so I'm just leaving it in my garage for right now and then we'll move it back up and we'll work on it. But my client drove a few hours to get this piece and she realized that it is more purple than she wanted. So they ended up buying it and we're going to change it up because it's not the color she wanted. So, excuse the car. So we are going to be painting this with vintage duck egg, which is a, hold on a second. Okay, so we are going to be painting this with vintage duck egg, which is right here. You guys have seen me use that before. I used it in my beginner video. So we're gonna be using vintage duck egg and we're gonna be doing some blending and shading and highlighting. We're going to change everything up, change the color of the hardware. We're going to, the inside is painted. I'm probably going to strip that down. The sides of the drawers, let's go over here so you can see. So the sides of the drawers have, it looks like spray paint, to be honest with you. So we're gonna strip this down because I don't want this on here. So we're going to strip it down and we're going to strip this top down. It's silver. We're gonna see what the wood looks like underneath there. Hopefully it looks good. So stay tuned because we are going to get started. The first thing I did on this buffet is strip down the top. So I am located in Germany, so I'm using this stripper that I found on Amazon Deutsch. But you're going to want to use your favorite stripper, and I put a thick layer on top of the buffet first, and I allow it to sit for about 30 minutes before I come back to it. It's been about 30 minutes, and so I'm coming back and I'm using my favorite plastic scraper. It's got a scoop on it, but I use a plastic scraper because I am unsure of what is underneath, and I don't like to use a metal scraper because I don't want to damage the surface underneath. Because even though the metal scraper does help get a lot off, I like to use a plastic one because it is a little bit better on the surface, so that way you don't accidentally scrape anything. So I am just going to scrape all of the paint off on this entire piece. Well, on the top of this entire piece. Generally, when I'm stripping the top of a piece, I need to do the stripping process twice. So now I have taken everything off with the first set of stripper, and now I'm putting another layer of stripper on here, and I'm going to allow it to sit for another 30 minutes, and I'm going to come back. Instead of doing my scraper first, I'm going to come back on the edges with a fine steel wool and actually kind of scrub the edges so I can get everything off of the edges first, and then I'll go through with my plastic scraper. My clients did not want that painting on the side of the drawers. They wanted the drawers to be natural, so I'm going to strip down the drawers as well. I'm going to allow it to sit for 30 minutes. I'm going to use my plastic scraper. Then I also do a wire brush to get in the inset right there where you can see that's where the drawer slide will go. And then I'll also go over it again with the steel wool. I'm not done with these drawer sides. Later on, once I'm done stripping everything down, I'm going to sand the sides of it to get even more of the stuff off of it. And then I'm also going to condition them with Big Mama's Butter, which you'll see later on in this video. The person who painted this also painted all of the keys and all of the hardware. Now, you can boil hardware that's painted, usually for about 30 minutes, and then you'll be able to scrape it off. But because I had the stripper out already, I'm doing it this way. So I put stripper on all the hardware and the keys, and then I'm taking a wire brush and I'm scrubbing it off. And then I'm also scrubbing it off with steel wool. What I'm going to do later on, I'm going to allow it to sit for about 24 hours and let things kind of harden, because the paint will, any residual paint that's on these hinges will end up hardening, and then I can just scrub them off with a brass wire brush later on. So I'm removing all of the paint from the hardware and the hinges and the keys. Okay, so after you're done stripping with a chemical stripper, you need to neutralize that stripper. And so I am taking what is called white spirits in Germany, and I am neutralizing that. This is they use it a lot for a cleaner, and you can also use it after you're done stripping, and you'll also see me use it to remove the wax on this piece later on. But if you are located in the EU, it's usually called white spirits. I think it's mineral spirits in the United States, then methylated spirits in Australia. So there's different names for this. I use this very sparingly because it is a petroleum-based product, but it is one that I have to use. I've had someone try to tell me before that you should neutralize your stripper with apple cider vinegar, and I said, that's an acid. You can't neutralize an acid with an acid. So, okay, so remember I told you I let that hardware sit for 24 hours. So now I'm just taking a brass wire brush and I'm scrubbing off the excess paint that was on the hinges. It's really easy. It makes it a lot easier to take it off. Again, you can boil it. I actually ended up having to boil the handles to get most of the hardware off, or most of the paint off, because I think it was spray paint on there. I'm not quite sure. I know that it was the furniture paint on the hinges, but on the hardware and the top, I feel like it was a spray paint. So now I'm taking mineral spirits and I'm removing all of the wax. I don't know if this is oil-based wax. I don't know if this is water-based wax. I didn't paint this. I don't know what kind of paint they used. I don't know what kind of wax they used. But I need to make sure I get this wax off because I want to have a nice clean surface that I can paint over. So I am taking all of the wax off with mineral spirits, and then I'm going to go through after I'm done doing that, and I will clean it really well with my Dixie Belle's White Lightning. So you still want to make sure that you clean it after you do your mineral spirits, but I'm basically trying to prep this piece and strip everything down so that I have a really good canvas to work with when I am creating my art on this piece. I just wanted to show you here really quick, the bottom doesn't have wax on it anymore and the top does. I removed the wax with the mineral spirits on the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my Surf Prep 3x4 electric ray, and I'm going to sand the top of it down just to get any imperfections out. So I'm using a 120 grit, and then I'll probably go through with a 220 grit. I am going to use a fine, thick 10 millimeter pad to go on the edges to make sure I get everything off. Now, whoever painted this before, she painted underneath the lip of the top, and it wasn't a clean paint, so I had to flip this upside down and I had to sand underneath the lip to get all that paint off as well. Because I'm keeping the top neutral or natural wood, I don't want there to be any paint on the bottom. For me, I try to keep everything as neat and clean as professional as possible. I think that your work is people will look at your work and they judge you on that. And so that's why I try to make sure that I do everything really nice, clean, crisp, and professional. Honestly, if you do everything right the first time and you make it nice and clean, then it will definitely help your reputation in the long run, especially if you're new in this business. When you're trying to sell furniture, you are competing in a huge market. And so the better your product is, the better that you will do. The bottom line is make sure that you take pride in your work. If you don't take pride in your work, then other people won't take it as seriously and they won't take pride in your work. This is not me. This is no slight on the person who did this before. I'm just giving you guys a lesson. So right now there's a transfer on here and I want to paint over it. So I'm going to sand it off or sand it down as smooth as I possibly can. And then I will be able to just paint right over that. If you have followed me, you have seen me use oxalic acid before. So this is oxalic acid. This is, obviously I'm in Germany, so that's in German. It is a powder. What it's going to do is help get this black stain out. So if you've ever stripped a piece down and you've got a discoloration or a black stain, you can use oxalic acid. You're going to put some water on the wood and then you're going to just put the granulated part down and you're going to make a paste with it. And then you're going to allow it to sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then you can come back and you're going to spray it off with water and wipe it off. And it will help get rid of those black stains that you can't get rid of with stripper or by sanding. Remember I told you I'm not done with the drawers, so here I am going to sand down the drawers. I've got a 10mm pad on my 3x4 electric ray. There was black on that top part right there, and so I'm trying to get all of the residual off, and I'm going to sand the drawer sides as well. And then later on you'll see me use Big Mama's Butter to condition them, and that way they look a lot nicer. So after I'm done doing this, I'm going to go right into it, and I'm going to clean the entire piece. That way I can make sure I have any kind of dirt or anything off of it. I know we've done a lot so far and it's been quite a bit of prep, but when you are buying furniture or you're working on furniture that's previously painted, you really need to make sure that you know the surface and you get it nice and ready, your paint ready, and that way you don't have problems later on. And so that's why I said that I'm taking the wax and all that stuff off so that I have the best canvas possible, because now my art is going on here and I want to make sure that it is going to last forever. I'm going to keep the top natural, so I'm going to seal it with hemp seed oil. So I'm using Howdy Doody hemp seed oil. This does not need to be reapplied. This is food safe. This is water resistant, all the things. It is super tough over time. It hardens and hardens and hardens. So here's what you're going to do with your hemp seed oil. And you can do this over paint as well. You're going to put a fairly thick layer on here, and I actually let it sit overnight. What's going to happen is you're going to come back overnight and either it's all going to be soaked in or there's going to be puddles. So here it is after a few hours, and you can see that some has soaked in and some hasn't. So I allowed this to sit overnight, and when I came back to it, there was no hemp seed oil sitting on top of it. So I am going to do just one more coat. Because it soaked everything in, I want to make sure. So here it is the next day. I haven't done anything with it. It's soaked into that wood. It looks beautiful. But I am going to put another layer on here. And so I'm going to put another layer on and allow it to sit for probably about 4 to 5 hours. And whatever has soaked in is going to be in there. And then if it's not soaked in, I'm going to wipe it off with a microfiber cloth. And you can buff it after that. You give it about a half an hour to let it really dry, and then you buff it after that. And you'll see me do that in a little bit. But now my stuff is ready, and I am going to paint 2 coats of vintage duck egg on this entire piece first before we do anything else. Now my piece has 2 layers of the vintage duck egg on it, and it's ready for some blending. I'm going to use Dixie Belle's Stormy Seas around the edges of the drawers first, and that's going to be my shading color. So my client didn't want it super, she just wants very subtle, very classy. So I'm going to go around all the edges with Stormy Seas. So this will be your darker color. If you're using a different paint line, you're going to use a darker color. I have my mister bottle and I keep that misted, so I'm going to mist the area. In the center I went back in with vintage duck egg, and then very center is sea glass. These colors are super similar, so I'm going to sprint some water on there, and then I'm going to take my clean dry neutral brush and I'm going to just go in circles, and I'm going to just blend it all in. This blend is a little bit different than some of the other blends I've taught you because the colors are so similar. I do have a rag so I can wipe it off, but you're going to do the darker on the outside, you're going to do your base coat again, and then you're going to do your lighter color in the center. You're going to take your clean dry neutral brush after you've missed it, and you're just going to go in circles, and you're going to get that all blended in. And this will give you a really pretty, nice, subtle blend, and it's super easy for beginners. Make sure that your colors are very similar, and that will be how you will get this kind of blend. If your colors are not super similar, it will not be as easy to blend. So what I would do is you would take your base color and go 1 shade up and 1 shade down. 1 shade down for your 1 shade darker for the color around for your shading, and then 1 shade lighter for your highlighter in the center. I'm using the same colors here. I'm just kind of placing them where I want the darker areas, and then I'm going to place where I want the lighter areas. So I want these to have a shadowy effect where I'm putting this. So I'm putting my Stormy Seas on those areas, and then the area where I want to give a little bit of light to, I'm going to use the highlighter color, which is Sea Glass. And then again, I'm going to take, so I use a brush for each color, and then the Clean Dry Neutral brush is one that I haven't dipped in any other paint. That's just the one that I use when I mist water and I'm blending everything together. Okay, so if you haven't watched any of my other videos, that's what a Clean Dry Neutral brush is. It's dry. I haven't dipped it in any paint. The only thing I've used it for is to mist and blend it together like this. Now I have blended in my Stormy Sea, so I'm going to go in with my Sea Glass, and this is my highlighter. This is where I want a lighter area. Again, I'm taking my Clean Dry Neutral brush after I mist the area, and I'm just going in circles, going horizontal, up and down, and you can see it has highlighted that area. So right here, the hemp seed oil has been sitting for a few hours, and you can see there's some areas where it soaked in, some it didn't. So I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and I'm going to wipe all the excess off, and then I'm going to allow it to just kind of sit and really dry in for about 30 minutes, and then I'll go through again and just buff it with my microfiber cloth, and you will have a beautiful, beautiful finish. I really wanted to highlight some of these areas on this piece, and so I'm using the Grunge Gray Wax, and I'm using the French tip brush right here so I can get into all the little tiny nooks and crannies, but I'm going around the edges where the ornate pieces are, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it back with a microfiber cloth, and then I'm going to take my Easy Peasy spray wax, which is a clear wax, and when I spray it on the surface, I'm able to wipe back the wax even more. You can do this with a clear wax if you want to as well. So I'm wiping it back right now and kind of rubbing it in, and if you feel like it's too dark at this point, you can do what I did next, and that's just spray the area after you've wiped all the excess off. You could spray it with the Easy Peasy spray wax, and then you can rub away the wax again and it'll lighten it up. Okay, so the flowers that are on the front of this piece were already on there when I got it. But my client wanted a Magnolia garden transfer on here, but her husband doesn't want the flowers on the front. So we are going to make just a pop of character on the inside of these doors. I'm going to use the Magnolia transfer, and I'm going to tape it in place and kind of visualize it, but I'm going to put this on the inside just to make it really nice for her. It's going to look really pretty. So I'm going to pull the backing off, and I'm going to burnish, which means rub. Basically, that's what it means. Rub this down with my hand, and then I'm also going to take the stick that comes in the transfer tube, and I'm going to rub the entire thing down first. Then I'll go back and I will rub a little at a time while I'm pulling it up. It will transfer onto the paint while I'm rubbing it and pulling up at the same time. If you end up pulling the transfer up and it doesn't transfer over, just push it back down and rub on it and it should be fine. After I'm done placing my transfer, I'm going to burnish it one more time with a microfiber cloth to make sure that it is really good and adhered to the surface. And then I'm going to seal it with a satin clear coat. So I'm going to seal it because you have to seal the transfer. It doesn't matter what kind of paint you're putting it on top of, you always have to seal your transfers. I'm using a satin clear coat because it's super user friendly, and that is the finish that we are getting on this entire piece. Now I'm going to put the final touches, the kind of just finishing touches. And right here, I'm putting Big Mama's Butter on the drawer side. I already told you that. I put them on the slides inside. It helps it kind of slide in and out a little bit better. Plus it freshens the wood. I am putting the handles. So these were original. I don't know if you remember, they were silver. We stripped them and we boiled them, and now they're back to original. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of gold. I'm using a gold gilding wax, and I'm going to use just a little tiny bit with my makeup brush. I don't want it to be too much, but I do want it to kind of all go together with the hardware and the hinges, because now that we have exposed the beautiful color, the original color of the hardware and the hinges, I wanted to just kind of put little pops of gold on the flowers and on the ornate areas of this piece. All right, everybody, so this piece is done. I would be lying to you if I told you that this was super easy. It was probably one of the most labor-intensive pieces that I have done this year, in 2021. It was a lot of fun to do, but this is why if you're a beginner, you should probably find furniture that is not painted, just in case, then you don't have to do the extra steps like removing wax and things like that. But I think it turned out pretty nice. What do you guys think? I hope my client loves it. It's nice and classy and simple, and we kind of pulled back a little bit of the original, brought out the shape of it. Anyways, if you guys are not subscribed, make sure you are subscribed and then you hit the bell. Remember, everything I use will be in the description below. Literally everything I use. I know there was a lot today. Be in the description. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you stay on so you can see the nice staged pictures of it. And as always, happy creating, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye!
Think about me one more time before you go. Someday you'll know. Someday you'll know. Already know what I'm going to say. I've been feeling this way for far too long.